Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a beautiful day to dive into the latest, most explosive drama unfolding in Genoa City. We are so thrilled to have you here with us as we unpack the tangled webs these characters weave. The tension is at an all-time high, and we have so much to discuss regarding the Newman and Abbott dynasties. Let's get right into the heart of the matter. You know, whenever Victor Newman decides to stop by and see Billy Abbott, there's always this incredibly heavy, unspoken tension lingering in the air. It is never just a simple, friendly visit, is it? So, when she drops in on him today to supposedly discuss their children, Johnny and Katie, coming home from their boarding school for the summer holidays, I couldn't help but feel that familiar, anxious knot tightening in my stomach. It is just so incredibly typical of Victoria to use the children as a comfortable, almost sterile entry point into a conversation that she already knows is going to turn hostile. I mean, she stands there, perfectly poised, discussing summer plans and school schedules, but if you look closely, you can see the cold, corporate calculation hiding right behind her eyes. It makes me feel a bit sad. Honestly, remembering back to the days when they used to be a real, functioning family. Now, the children are just a buffer. They're merely a preamble to the ruthless corporate warfare that always seems to define their interactions these days. And it just breaks my heart to see how transactional their dynamic has become. And of course, the fragile facade of co-parenting pleasantry shatters almost instantly. Victoria smoothly, almost as smoothly, transitions into the real, underlying reason for her unexpected visit. She brings up Victor because, let's be honest, it always comes back to Victor Newman, doesn't it? She calmly warns Billy about these so-called forensic emails that have supposedly been uncovered in a massive new investigation. My heart just sank watching this unfold. We all know that Victor is using that terrifyingly advanced AI program to fabricate evidence against Phyllis Summers and Kane Ashby to ruthlessly reclaim the Newman Empire. But seeing Victoria so chillingly complicit in her father's dark arts, it really, truly bothers me. She is standing there, calmly informing the father of her children that he is essentially collateral damage in a fabricated corporate bloodbath. It's just so cold, so devoid of any human empathy, and it really makes me wonder if Victoria has completely lost her soul to the Newman Enterprise. When Billy finally realizes that his own name is plastered all over those fake, AI-generated emails, the shift in his demeanor is absolutely instantaneous. You can literally see the sheer panic and the boiling rage warring on his face in real time. He knows, just as we the audience know, that these emails are completely fabricated out of thin air by Victor's malicious software. He starts complaining, his voice rising in that familiar, defensive pitch, demanding to know what on earth these fake documents even say about him. And I just felt this overwhelming wave of sympathy for Billy in that moment. Yes, he makes his own reckless mistakes, but to be dragged into Victor's ruthless, illegal takedown of Phyllis and Kane, it is entirely unfair, especially when you consider the horrifying real-world consequences of this plot. Kane is currently being arrested and handcuffed right when he is supposed to be traveling to New York to donate life-saving bone marrow to Malcolm Winters. The collateral damage of Victor's ambition is just staggering, and Billy is suddenly realizing, with a sickening jolt, that he is standing right in the center of the blast zone. But Victoria, she doesn't even flinch. She stands her ground, insisting with this infuriatingly calm, almost robotic demeanor that Billy absolutely had to be mentioned as a key player in the emails for the fake narrative to make any logical sense to the authorities. It is as if she is discussing the plot of a fictional novel, than a malicious legal frame-up that could literally send innocent people to federal prison. I found myself getting genuinely, viscerally angry at her as I watched. How can she possibly justify this level of cruelty? She is looking right at Billy, a man she once loved deeply, a man she shares children with, and basically telling him that his reputation, his career, and potentially his freedom are acceptable sacrifices for the Newman family's corporate agenda. It just shows how deeply, perhaps irreversibly, entrenched she is in Victor's toxic worldview. She genuinely believes that because Billy was merely adjacent to Phyllis's hostile takeover of Chancellor, he deserves to be caught in this AI-generated web of lies and deceit. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it all pushes Billy right over the edge. He looks Victoria dead in the eye, his chest heaving with emotion, and makes it absolutely clear that if Victor goes through with this insane, illegal plan, he's going to deeply, deeply regret it. It is a threat, pure and simple, delivered with all the bravado Billy can muster. But as I watched him make it, I couldn't help but feel this profound, aching sense of futility. Billy is always threatening Victor, always trying to step out from beneath that massive, suffocating Newman shadow, but does he ever really win? It breaks my heart a little to see him puff up his chest like this, driven by raw, desperate emotion rather than actual strategic power. He urges Victoria to show some backbone, to stand up to her father and stop this madness before it destroys everyone in its path. He is essentially pleading with the ghost of the independent woman she used to be, desperately hoping to find a shred of the Victoria who used to push back against Victor's tyranny. That emotional plea, however, is the absolute wrong tactic to use with Victoria Newman today. The moment Billy questions her independence from Victor, she completely loses her temper. The icy facade cracks, and she fires back, her voice dripping with absolute venom, accusing Billy of acting like a totally innocent, persecuted victim while simultaneously gloating about his newfound power at Chancellor. The argument escalates so incredibly quickly, it is like watching a lit match being dropped into a massive pool of gasoline. I felt my own pulse racing just thinking about the years and years of unresolved bitterness pouring out of them in this tiny room. Billy immediately gets defensive, arguing passionately that he never actually had real control over Chancellor anyway, trying to minimize his role in the whole corporate mess. But they aren't even really arguing about the company anymore, are they? They are arguing about their past, their mutual failures, and the deep, lingering resentments that never, ever seem to fade away. And then comes the absolute breaking point of the entire confrontation. Victoria, her face flushed with genuine, unfiltered anger, finally screams at him. She yells, at the top of her lungs, that Billy never, ever stops being a selfish, obsessed jerk. Hearing those specific words, it felt like a physical blow to the stomach. It is such a deeply personal, cutting insult, and you can tell from the raw emotion in her voice that she meant every single syllable of it. I found myself wondering, is she projecting just a little bit here, or is she just utterly exhausted by the endless, repetitive cycle of Billy's chaos? There is so much historical pain packed into that one sentence. It is the agonizing cry of a woman who has spent years trying to fix a man who, in her eyes, is fundamentally broken and entirely self-centered. The silence that follows that scream is absolutely deafening. And then, the universe intervenes in the most dramatic, soap opera way possible. Right at that exact, excruciatingly tense moment, the door opens, and in walks Sally Spectra. I mean, you really, truly couldn't script a more awkward, tension-filled entrance if you tried. The timing is just so impeccable, it actually made me gasp out loud. Here is Sally stepping into this room that is incredibly thick with the toxic, suffocating residue of a classic Billy blowout. You can instantly see the confusion, the hesitation, and the immediate discomfort on Sally's face as she absorbs the hostile energy radiating between Billy and Victoria. My heart genuinely went out to Sally in this moment. She is carrying so much emotional weight right now, what with her high-risk twin pregnancy, and the lingering, devastating trauma of losing baby Ava. And the absolute last thing she needs in her life is to walk directly into the crossfire of a vicious Newman Abbott war. The dynamic in the room shifts so violently it almost gave me whiplash. Victoria, ever the observant, calculating predator, immediately zeroes in on Sally's hand. She sees the engagement ring sparkling there. The silence stretches out, thick and incredibly uncomfortable. I could feel the awkwardness radiating right through the screen. Victoria's eyes dart from the ring to Sally, and then back to Billy, and then she congratulates them, but it is not a warm, genuine congratulations. It is that perfectly polite, I see Newman congratulations that somehow feel significantly more like a warning than a blessing. I felt this intense, overwhelming wave of protectiveness over Sally. She has fought so incredibly hard for a sliver of happiness, and having Victoria Newman scrutinize her engagement with that cold, judgmental stare just feels so incredibly invasive and entirely unfair to her. But Billy, perhaps driven by the lingering adrenaline of the screaming match, or maybe just desperately wanting to assert his new, independent life right in Victoria's face, drops an absolute bombshell. He doesn't just accept the icy congratulations. He blurts out, right then and there, that Sally is pregnant. I honestly couldn't believe he said it out loud to Victoria of all people. Given how terrified Billy and Sally have been about keeping this high-risk twin pregnancy a secret from the world, blurting it out in the middle of a hostile standoff feels so reckless, so impulsive, so very Billy Abbott. I felt a tight knot of anxiety form in my chest. You can see Sally physically tense up, probably terrified that Victoria is going to use this deeply personal, fragile information against them somehow. The emotional stakes of the scene just instantly skyrocketed into the stratosphere. Victoria absorbs this massive, life-altering piece of news with this completely unreadable, enigmatic expression on her face. She doesn't offer warm maternal advice, nor does she offer genuine well wishes. Instead, she looks at them both and cryptically notes that a baby changes everything. And then, without another word, she just turns on her heel and leaves the apartment. That phrase, a baby changes everything, it echoed in my mind long after she walked out the door. Coming from Victoria Newman, it felt loaded with so much dark history. Is she referring to their own children? Is she thinking about the tragic, haunting loss of Delia that still dictates Billy's every waking moment? Or is it a veiled, sinister threat about how vulnerable this new baby makes him in the face of Victor's impending corporate slaughter? It left me feeling so unsettled, so deeply anxious for Billy and Sally's future. Once the door finally clicks shut behind Victoria, the chaotic energy in the room completely deflates, leaving behind a heavy, exhausted silence. Billy is left standing there, breathing heavily, trying to process what just happened, while Sally looks at him with wide, terrified eyes, silently demanding to know what on earth that entire confrontation was about. Watching Billy try to pivot from a vicious screaming match with his ex-wife to comforting his pregnant, vulnerable fiancée was genuinely heartbreaking to witness. He takes a deep breath and starts to explain the whole twisted situation, laying out the ugly, terrifying truth about the fake AI emails. He tells Sally that Kane and Phyllis are going to face very real, very serious criminal charges because of Victor's ruthless machinations, and that his name is tangled up in it too. I could see the sheer, unadulterated panic setting into Sally's eyes as she listened. Sally, naturally, is absolutely terrified by this revelation. She asks the agonizing question that we are all screaming at our screens. What does all of this mean for Billy? What does it mean for their future, for their unborn babies? She has worked so incredibly hard to build a stable, loving environment, and now the man she loves is being dragged into a federal investigation orchestrated by the most powerful man in town. And Billy, sweet, broken, determined Billy, he pulls her close, wrapping his arms around her, and tries his absolute best to reassure her. He promises her that he is going to figure it all out, that he will investigate the emails, and that he absolutely will not let Victor's vendetta touch their growing family. It is a beautiful, deeply emotional moment of connection between them. But as I watched him hold her so tightly, I couldn't help but feel this overwhelming, suffocating sense of dread washing over me. Can Billy really protect them from this? He is going up against Victor Newman, a man who is currently destroying his own family, leveraging AI, and risking Malcolm Winter's life just to win a corporate game. Victor has limitless resources and absolutely zero moral boundaries when it comes to crushing his enemies. As much as I desperately want to believe Billy's heartfelt promises to Sally, my heart aches with the terrifying fear that this is only the very beginning of a much darker, much more dangerous nightmare for all of them. The storm is coming to Genoa City, and I just don't know if Billy and Sally's love is strong enough to survive the hurricane Victor Newman is unleashing.